Alright, so a couple of weeks ago we got our 6th summoning animal added into Naruto Shinobi Striker, that being the ninja cats. With those included, we now have a total of 6 different animals you can equip when going into battle, and all of them are quite different from one another. So I figured why not update my video from a year ago and rank all of the summons again, once again going from worst to best. Hopefully this will help you decide which animal is the best for you, and maybe even expand your knowledge of how they work. With that said, let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Alright, so at the bottom of the list we have the Ninja Snake. This summon allows you to burrow underground when activated and gives you the option to fire a projectile at enemies, with the projectile changing depending on which of the 3 snake types you're actually using. I think it's pretty clear why this is the weakest summon in the game. There are a few reasons for that. The biggest issue is the incredibly long animation time. Good luck trying to pull off this in the middle of a hectic fight, especially when things get crowded. On top of that, while the projectile itself can be useful in theory, if you get hit at any point while emerging from the ground or during the firing animation, the summon is immediately cancelled. There's no super armor at all. The one upside is that while you're underground, you cannot take any damage, which is at least something. As for the projectiles themselves, the attack type snake fires a wind bullet with very strange tracking. It basically curves way off target, then tries to correct itself, and sometimes it does hit. Even then, if it does connect, all it really does is knock the enemy down while dealing a bit of damage. And well, that's obviously not great, since all knockdowns do is prevent you from dealing more damage. The supplier snake fires a much slower projectile that applies poison if it hits. While the effect itself is decent, the projectile has much shorter range and is noticeably slower, which makes it unreliable in practice. The best option in my opinion is the healer snake. Its projectile briefly stuns the enemy if it lands. Which at least allows you to follow up with a combo. And that in my opinion gives the most upside out of those 3. Overall though, the ninja snake just has too many flaws. Realistically, the most practical use for it is just probably equipping the healer version and burying yourself underground to recover some health. But even then, there are better summons that do that job more effectively. And because of all of that, the Ninja Snake comfortably takes the last spot on this list. Up next we have the very first summoning animal introduced into the game, the Ninja Hound. This is definitely the simplest summoning pet in the game, as it's essentially just a fast movement option that lets you deal damage by bumping into enemies. Once again, there are 3 different variants, but this time the only real difference between them is their passive effect. Attack hounds deal more damage, supplier hounds recover cooldowns faster, and healer hounds restore your health. In terms of pure speed, the Hound is the fastest summoning animal in the game. That speed comes with a limitation though. You can only use it on the ground or while wall running. On its own, that wouldn't be too much of an issue, but my biggest problem with the Hound is the fact that any hit instantly cancels the summon. There's no health pool, no super armor whatsoever, just nothing. This means that in tight escape situations, you're often relying on sheer luck, because getting clipped by almost anything will cancel the summon immediately. The best use for this pet though is on very flat maps, where you can quickly move between objectives as fast as possible. In those situations, it can definitely be useful. You can also use it to deal some chip damage in crowded fights by running through enemies, but once again, you have to be extremely careful not to get hit. Overall, it's not the worst summoning animal in the game, but it offers very little variety and utility compared to the others, which is why it doesn't rank any higher. Hey, are you enjoying the video thus far? If you are, you'd really help me out by hitting both the like and the subscribe button. Not only does it help the algorithm, but we're also currently trying to get 3,000 subscribers, and genuinely at this stage, every single sub helps. Thanks a lot, now back to the video. Next up on the list we have the Ninja Toad. When summoned, it allows you to hop and jump around the map while dealing damage to enemies by colliding with them, similar to how the Ninja Hound works. The biggest difference here, aside from the jumping, is the fact that you gain super armor whilst using the Toad. This means that, for the most part, your summon isn't going to be cancelled at all. And because of that, the Toad is one of the best summoning pets in the game for dealing damage, as you can charge straight into groups of enemies and run them over for maximum impact. You can also make the Toad drop down onto the enemies by pressing an additional button, but this takes quite a long time to activate, and the landing indicator is very noticeable. Because of that, it's not something you'll be able to land consistently. The Toad is noticeably slower than something like the Hound, but I think that's largely offset by its jumping ability. The jumps make it much harder for enemies to keep track of you and allow you to navigate uneven or difficult terrain far more easily. My biggest issue with the Toad is that it's very easy to take a lot of damage while charging into battle. Your hitbox is massive, and because you have super armor, you might not even realize how much damage you're you're taking until you hop off with surprisingly low HP. This can be partially offset by using the healer toad, but even then I'd mainly recommend this summon for defense builds or healer builds that are focused on keeping themselves alive. Still, in the right circumstances, the Ninja Toad is a very useful summoning animal. Up next, we have the most recent addition into the summoning animal lineup, the Ninja Cat. I have to say, this is easily the hardest summon to rank, mainly because it's so different from the others. Unlike every other summon on this list, the cats aren't focused on movement at all. They are a pure utility summon. When activated, you summon 2 cats. One of them throws shurikens at nearby enemies, while the other drops a series of scrolls that you can pick up. These scrolls all provide some sort of beneficial effect, and what they do depends partially on the type of cat you're using. Attack cat scrolls mainly increase your damage, supplier cat scrolls reduce cooldown, and healer cat scrolls restore health. That said, there are 4 scrolls effect that appear across all cat types, and these are where things get really interesting. These including equipping the player with a hog that allows you to float slightly when jumping, a cheer effect that creates a dome granting super armor to you and your allies, and an explosive balloon that detonates after a short time, meaning you'll need to pass it to an enemy to avoid blowing yourself up. The scrolls effects themselves are genuinely very strong, but the biggest issue is finding a safe opportunity to use this summon, since the scrolls can not only be picked up by you and your allies but also the enemies, which means you have to be very careful about where you want to activate it. On top of that, the shuriken throwing cat can jump onto your shoulder if you walk close to it, giving you a bit of extra damage on top. Overall, the Ninja Cats are an extremely unique summoning pet. When used intelligently, they can have a very strong positive impact on both you and your team, but they also come with clear risks that you'll need to manage as the user. Next up, we have the Ninja Hawk, which for the longest time used to be my go-to summoning pet. The most obvious benefit here is that the hawk can fly, meaning that regardless of the map or the terrain you're playing on, it's always super useful, whether you're trying to move quickly across the map or escape a dangerous situation. This does come at a slight cost, as the hawk is much slower than something like the Ninja Hound and won't cover quite as much of a distance in the same amount of time. Still, the sheer versatility of being able to fly makes it one of the better movement options in the game. Another huge advantage is the Hawk's attack. When activated, it spins and launches itself at the targeted enemy. This attack has very strong tracking and is excellent at baiting early substitutions when engaging an opponent. Because of that, you'll often force your enemy to sub, instantly putting you into an advantageous position. Even though the Hawk can still be cancelled if you get hit, it's much harder to hit targets that are in the air in this game, so this happens far less often. This also means that whenever you use the Healer Hawk, you can reliably recover some health while staying relatively safe. Overall, it's very hard to go wrong with this summon. The Ninja Hawk is extremely reliable and remains one of the best summoning animals in the game. And taking the number 1 spot, we have the Ninja Turtle. When used, the turtle lifts you into the air while spinning, and once that movement ends, it performs a follow-up action depending on its type. In terms of raw speed, the turtle actually achieves the highest movement speed in the air of any summoned animal, although it doesn't last as long as the hawk and does slow down near the end. You could argue that the hawk is better purely for movement, but that's not the main reason the turtle takes the top spot here. The turtle's real strength comes from its type-specific effects. The attack turtle drops down and creates a lava pool that damages enemies, while the supplier turtle shoots forward in a straight line before bouncing and dealing damage to anyone they hit. But most importantly, the healer turtle creates a healing sphere that restores a significant amount of health. It's essentially a weaker version of the healing slug. When combined with the healing you already receive while riding the healer type summons, this allows you to recover roughly 30% of your health, which is incredibly strong for a summoning pet. What makes this even better is how the healing sphere is placed. Once the flight ends, the turtle launches you slightly upward and creates the healing field where it was previously, often high in the air and relatively safe. You can then drop back down onto it and heal with minimal risk. Because of the strong healing paired with excellent movement, the Ninja Turtle easily takes the top spot for me. You could argue that I'm mainly highlighting the healer turtle here, and that's fair, but when ranking the summons, I think it makes sense to judge them based on their strongest variant, which is what I'm doing on this list anyway. So yeah, if there's any summon I highly recommend, it's the healer turtle. So yeah, that's all of the summoning animals ranked. Let me know in the comments what your go-to summon is in Shinobi Striker and whether you agree with my list. I think we're bound to get even more interesting summon animals in the future, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!